Diversity, equity, and inclusion.
The number of women sitting on boards of Fortune 500 companies is increasing.
The NFL is making some changes to try to boost their low numbers of minority coaches.
I think there's a really interesting story to be told about diversity on primetime television.
This week's Democratic debate didn't have a single candidate of color on stage.
Diversity hiring is out of control. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, you better. Yeah, you better.
Guys, before we get into this video, if you'd like to support the work that I'm doing on this channel, consider becoming a patron to my Patreon. The link is in the description down below. Thank you to everybody who's become a patron so far. We're trying hard to keep sponsored ad reads off of this channel if we can for your sake. So support us if you want to support us. Thank you. Now let's talk about the plague of diversity hiring that has descended upon the United States of America. For those of you who don't know what diversity hiring is, it is the practice of hiring people and giving them jobs based on their minority or marginalized status. This is not to say that these people are wholly unqualified for the jobs that they're getting, but it is to say that they have an extra boost or leg up based on that marginalized status. Now, this can be anything from being black to being female to being Hispanic to being LGBTQ. You name it. If you are marginalized because of this superficial identity, you have a leg up at getting a job. It's essentially modern day discrimination. And we came up with this idea because of the past transgressions in American history where we did actively discriminate against people of color, women, LGBTQ people. But ask yourselves throughout this video, do we fix past discrimination with present discrimination? I'm sure many of you will say yes, but hopefully throughout this video, we can lay the case for this not being the solution to our past discrimination. Now, as far as the scope of this issue of diversity hiring or diversity, equity, and inclusion, it is everywhere in all of our major institutions, in our government, in our schools, in our top companies. Everybody seems to be hopping on the bandwagon of this modern day discrimination. In December of 2020, on the heels of George Floyd and the riots and protests that ensued after that incident, 37 of the US's top companies decided that they were going to break systemic barriers in the workforce by actively discriminating against their job applicants. One of the biggest corporations on that list, IBM, the International Business Machines Corporation, which is fitting because just a few days ago, we got this leaked video of the CEO saying that he is actively discriminating against job applicants. And more than that, those doing the hiring at IBM will lose their bonuses if they fail to meet the diversity quotas of the company. Let's watch.
So we take underrepresented and gender. You got to move both forward by a percentage. That leads to a plus on your bonus. By the way, if you lose part of your bonus. I'm not trying to finesse this. So for blacks, we should try to get towards 13 point something percent. On Hispanics, you got to get into the mid-teens. So let me say it. Asians in the US are not an underrepresented minority in a tech company.
You just heard it, the quiet part said out loud, and down to the very detail. He's even trying to match the percentage of the population for each minority group that he's trying to have hired. But notice how he distinctly says that Asians are not included. And why is that? Because they're a minority group that nobody cares about because they're outperforming all of their other marginalized counterparts. And notice how he very clearly states that failure to bring in these diversity hires is going to affect people's bonuses. You must ask yourself, do they actually care about hiring a diverse group of people, or are they only doing it for the sake of keeping their jobs and keeping their bonuses? And of course, we have other examples of this happening, and it's not just in the US. What happens in the US gets absorbed by other countries, and suddenly we're all getting in this diversity, equity, and inclusion train. In fact, the University of Victoria, which is in Canada, posted this job listing. Oh look, they're looking for an assistant professor of integrated music composition. But in accordance with the university's equity plan, the selection will be limited to members of the following designated group: Black people. Even funnier, it says our search committee will review the pool of applicants from those who self-identify with this designated group. So I guess there's still hope for Rachel Dolezal. At this point, if you're a white person or a man, I don't see why you wouldn't just self-identify with a marginalized or minority group, knowing that it gives you this added benefit. And we've seen some men take advantage of this loophole and do exactly that. Here's a group of men that decided to get into a tech conference by identifying as non-binary.
Career conference for females in tech was taken over by male attendees. Social media clips filmed at the Grace Hopper, the world's largest gathering of women technologists, show men standing in line to meet with recruiters.
And once you're taken on as that diversity hire, maybe your company will go a bit further with their discrimination and segregate you while you're on the job. Here's an email invite from the mayor of Boston that's cordially inviting you and a guest to the Electeds of Color holiday party, which is meant to be exclusively for Black council members. Peep those pronouns in the email signature, of course. Now, I could go down the rabbit hole and show you more and more examples of this happening, but I think we have the general understanding understanding that this is getting out of control. Me personally, when I'm looking for a professional, I want the best person for the job, not the best black person for the job, not the best woman or LGBTQ individual for the job. And by hiring in this discriminatory manner, you are almost ensuring that you will not find the best candidate for the position. Now, this is not to say that black people or women or LGBTQ people are unqualified for these jobs. It's just to say that we should be fair in our hiring practice and allow all those to apply and judge them based on merit. And I have to point out that I don't think this is coming out of the goodness of people's hearts. I think they're doing it because they have to.
You provide a point of view that is essential to keeping the diversity guy from bothering us.
There's a number of reasons why these companies are engaging in diversity hiring practices. One of them is ESG, which stands for environmental social governance, which we can think of like a social credit score. These companies get boosts and benefits for adhering to this ideology. The more diversity hires you have, the better your ESG score. The better your ESG score, the more money and connections you make, which I imagine makes those bonuses that the CEO of IBM was talking about much higher than they would have been. Another one is virtue signaling. These companies and the people within them get to pat themselves on the back and talk about how good they are for hiring somebody from a marginalized group. And this stems from a place of pity. They feel bad for you and therefore they will hire you. And notice how that pity does not extend to certain minority groups, like Asians, as the CEO of IBM stated. Another reason might be because of those George Floyd riots and protests that happened in the summer of 2020. Employees are up in arms, people are staging protests outside of the companies, they're getting strongly worded letters, and so they feel the need to placate to the leftists who are crying out for diversity hiring. Notice how none of these motivations come from a place of this actually being a good practice. All they want to do is quell the unrest, and they will do whatever it takes to make themselves look good while also making you shut up about other things they may be doing as a corporation. And I know that I give this same speech over and over, but it is by no means beneficial to any party involved to be hiring on the basis of diversity. For black people or women or LGBTQ people, you get to sit with yourself and wonder, did I really get this job based on merit, or did I get it because of my marginalized status? Wouldn't you like to know that your accomplishments are real? And for all the people working around you, you're actually creating a racist environment, because now we're judging one another based on whether or not we think they got their job in a fair manner. Why not judge a woman or a black person who's working beside you as a colleague when you know they may have gotten their job based on this superficial identity characteristic? It's only natural. And on top of that, it encourages victimhood mentality. If we know that you get a leg up for being a minority, why not view yourself as a minority? Why not use that at every chance you get in order to get ahead of those around you? It essentially says, if I sit in this place of victimhood, I know it's going to take me farther in life. And we know this because we're seeing this, but I also know this from experience. For all the biracial people listening right now, have you ever been told that you should mark black on an application rather than both of your races? Because they know that marking just black rather than both of your races is going to take you farther as an applicant. I've certainly been told that several times. We know what the reality is. We know that it's discrimination, so why is nothing being done about it? Maybe it's because people are too scared to call it out. Maybe it's because it's been normalized and we all think that this is somehow the right thing to do. But I'm here to tell you today, it's time for race neutrality, sex neutrality, identity neutrality when it comes to hiring people for jobs. Let's get rid of marking your race or ethnicity. Let's get rid of throwing the pronouns on the application and instead just view people based on their merit and accomplishments. And if those merits and accomplishments happen to lead you to a black hire, a woman hire, an LGBTQ hire, then so be it. They will have gotten that position because they deserved it, not because of their identity. Because as much as we try to convince ourselves that this is somehow good for our society, this is the actual promotion of diversity. It is in fact the exact opposite. If you're hiring in this way, you don't want actual diversity. You want a bunch of people in your company that look different but all have the same ideas and toe the line of whatever your corporate ESG agenda is. And as soon as we wake up and realize that this is the reality, we can promote actual diversity in the workplace. Diversity of thought and opinion and of background. And yes, that has nothing to do with the color of your skin. And for all those of minority status that are watching right now, let's try to build a future for ourselves where we are judged based on our actual accomplishments, things that we have done for the world, our communities, and those around us, our actual merit. I don't want to be judged based on the fact that a group of people got together in a boardroom and decided that they pitied me based on my identity. And I hope that that's something that we can all agree on. But those are just my thoughts. Throw your thoughts in the comments down below. As always, I encourage healthy debate, so duke it out, but do so respectfully. And if you like this video, like, subscribe, click the notification bell to be notified every single time I post a video for you guys, which is every single day, and I will see you next time.
Yeah, you better.